This one is so much like the last lesson. Instead of additive property of equality, though, we're dealing with multiplication. So let's go ahead and take this true statement and let's multiply each side by the same factor. What if we multiply, well, let's look at it this way. Since the two, multiply both sides by the same thing. Now we get this, and it's equivalent. And that is also true. So as long as I multiply both sides of the equation by the same number, the next equation still remains equivalent. And just like we did with adding. So you can add the same thing to both sides, or you can multiply this by the same thing on both sides of your equation. So there's another fancy definition, just like the additive property or addition property of equality. Again, remember how we said if A, B, and C are any real numbers and if A equals B. So like up here, A and B. And C would be 3, a factor we multiplied by. Okay, then they will be equivalent. When you multiply them together, the result will also be equivalent. Okay, so let's actually put this into something that makes sense. What does this mean and how do we use it? Okay, so what it means is, let's multiply, again, we want like x alone. So what if we multiply both sides of this equation by the same number, 1/4, and see what happens? Is this legal? Can I multiply both sides by 1/4? Absolutely. So 1/4 times 4, not sure if you know this, but of course it's got a denominator and so does the 12. This helps you kind of give you anchor this a little bit, but you'll get better at it if you don't notice it. But then these all cancel out to 1x, so we get x equals, and that turns into 12/4, which equals 3. All right, so we're going to use, by multiplying both sides by the same thing, we can get to a solid solution to an equation. And you might have already known that because you knew that 4 times 3 is 12, and you're like, why do we have to do all this nonsense? Well, for the same reason that I told you last lesson. It's going to get more complicated. And in the last lesson, they gave us this paragraph about multiplication, or addition. This one's about multiplication. If every term, this is a little different in multiplying though, every term needs to be multiplied. And that's going to happen more and more later on. So I'll bring this up when that shows up. Okay, if every term on both sides of an equation is multiplied or divided. So I multiplied by 1/4. I could have divided both sides by 4 and not multiplied by 1/4. Let me show you. What if we had done this? This is how I usually do these. So, because multiplying by 1/4 is the same as dividing by 4. All right, so let's say we divided both sides by 4. Those cancel out, leaving an x, and equals 3. So yeah, those were the same. Okay, or divided by the same non-zero quantity. Why do they say that? Well, remember, we can never ever divide by 0, like ever. So we can divide it by the same non-zero quantity. The resulting equation will be an equivalent equation to the original, and thus every solution of one of these equations will be a solution to the other of the other equation. So what they're saying is x equals 3 has the same solution, or is the solution to this. Okay, let's just go ahead and start these. All right, like I said, I would divide, and that's what they're talking about here. So we're gonna divide both sides by 5 so we can get x alone. That goes away. X equals 4. Could we check? Yes. All right, 5 times 4 equals 20. Yes, it does. And so true. So my answer is x equals 4. These ones might be tricky for you. Some people don't realize what we multiply this by. Now, way back, I think near the beginning, in the first few lessons, we learned that when you multiply a number by its reciprocal, you get 1. So we basically want this number to turn into 1x, right? So if we multiply it by its reciprocal, if we multiply it by 5/2, what happens? We get 10/10, right? Or these cross out. So that turns into, the x just drops out because we multiplied by 2/5 reciprocal, which was 5/2. Now, in order to make this legal, according to the multiplicative property of equality, then you have to multiply this side by 5/2 as well. And so remember, that's always the same as 7 wholes or 7 ones. So we get 35/2. Now remember what I said about math this year is you get to leave things improper, which is great. We don't have to actually divide that out. 35/2. So I would like to check that. So I'm going to take 2/5, multiply it by x, which is 35/2, and see if we get 7. Okay, well, I can cross cancel those, and so what I get is 35/5, which is 7, which is true. So yes, 35/2 is our answer. All right, just like the last lesson, I changed these into mixed numbers into improper fractions right away before I do any sort of operating. Okay, so 8, 9, that would be 9/4 x equal 3. And again, in order to get rid of this, we're going to multiply by its reciprocal. And in order to make it legal and balanced, I'm going to multiply the other side. Now don't confuse and do this, have this be the 9/4. What did we add to this side? 4/9, or we multiplied this side by 4/9, so we've got to do it to this side as well. Now, these guys cancel out, giving me an x, or 1x. And remember how to cross cancel? 3 goes into itself once, goes into 9 3 times. So now what's left is 1's over here, so we get x equals 4/3. And again, it's improper, but that's okay. We get to leave it like that. And I'm going to go ahead and check. I'm going to do 9/4 times 4/3, and does that equal 3? Yes, well, 4 and 4 cancel out, and I get 9/3, or I can say 3 goes into itself once, goes into 9 3 times, so yes, 3 equals 3, and there we go. And that's true. All right, this one. This is x divided by 3 equals 9. Well, how do we get 3 out of there? Well, that's the same as 1/3 times x. This is exact, I just want you to realize that. X over 3 is the same as 1/3 x. These are telling us the same thing, different form. So if that's true, we would multiply this by the reciprocal to get x alone. So the reciprocal would be 3 wholes, or 3 over 1, right? So it just means we multiply it by 3, or 3 over 1. Because now you'll see they cancel out, leaving an x. So I have to do that to this side. Multiply by 3, and we get 27. And then I'm going to go ahead and check. 27 over 3 equal 9. 9 equals 9. True. And the next page. All right. Good. Now we're getting a little more complex. Let's first, like I said, always turn it into improper fractions. The book does it one way. I might do it a different way, but I'll do it their way, okay? Just for fun. So to change that, that's going to be x over 5/2 equals 7, right? Well, remember, to get something out of the denominator, we just multiply it. Now this isn't a reciprocal one, right? Because why? I put it over 1 because this is exactly the same thing, top and bottom, so those guys go away or cancel out, now leaving me with an x. So what did I multiply by? I multiplied by 5/2. And if this is confusing, you might want to look in the book again and then come back and watch this, or because you're going to get a chance to do it in just a minute. So 7 times 5/2 would be 35 over 2. And again, we do not need to turn that into a mixed number. So then how would you check that? 35/2 over 2.5. Okay, let me show it to you on the back. What did I say? 35 halves over 2 1/2. Does that equal 7? Well, again, that's 35 halves over 5 halves equals 7. Now, do you remember what division really is in fractions? When you divide fractions, you change it to a multiplication problem and you multiply by its reciprocal. So this is equivalent. Watch this. This is a little fraction review. This equals that. Okay, be sure you really understand how I got from here to here. Division of fractions means you multiply by the second one's reciprocal. See how this flipped? So we multiply by the reciprocal. And now look, these cancel out and we get 35 divided by 5, which is 7. And that's true. So that's what we get, 35 halves. Last one with me, and then you're going to try these on your own. Same thing. I'm going to multiply. Well, let me change this, get rid of it, of the improper fraction. So that's p over 3 halves equal 13 thirds. Okay, so we're going to multiply both sides by 3 halves, right? Because we want those guys to just go away. It doesn't even matter what happens. They're the same, so they go away. Cancel each other out. And so what we did was multiply by 3 halves. Those go away and we get 13 halves. All right, and then let's go ahead and check. 13 halves divided by 3 halves equal, no, what was it? Sorry, I had to check. 13 thirds. Okay, so remember what this means. That means 13 halves times 2 thirds equals 13 thirds. And now let's see. Yes. True. Okay, so really make sure we understand this, all right? All right, you got 4 problems to do on your own. You can turn this off and then see how you do. And I will work through them right now and go. All right, well, I'm running out of room here, but I don't know if you can see this, but I would multiply both sides by the reciprocal, which is 5 thirds. Okay, so that gives me an x, and then I'm going to go ahead and do some cross-canceling. 3 goes into itself once and goes into 27 9 times. So 9 times 5 is 45. And I'm going to check it. Is 3/5 times 45 equal to 27? Well, these cancel out. And I got 3 times 9. And yes, it does. Letter B. Again, get rid of the mixed number, make it improper fractions. So that's 15 16/5. 16/5 y, sorry, equal 32. I'm going to multiply by the reciprocal so they cancel out, leaving me a y equals, and what I did here I have to do over there, I multiplied by 5/16. Okay. Now I'm going to cross cancel before I don't want to do 32 times 5 and then divide 16. I never want to do that. So I look and see, oh, can I, well, I know 4 is a factor of both of these, 8 is a factor of both of these, and actually 16 goes into 32. 16 times 2 is 32. So I'm going to say 16 goes into itself once, goes into 32 twice, and now I'm left with that, much easier. 2 times 5 is 10. Instead of going through all that heavy math. Simplify first. All right, so let's go ahead and check it. Is 16/5 times 10 equal to 32? Well, looks like it. 2 times 16 is 32. And true, so I know I got the answer correctly. Letter C, now on yours says D. I have a mistake. All right. X over 1/4 equal 20. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 1/4. And those go away. And so I get 20 over 4, which I get 5. Okay, so let's try that out. If I did 5 divided by 1/4, that's the same as 5 times 4 over 1. And does that equal 20? Yes. True. The last one, I'm going to change to x over 9/4 equal 5. Multiply both sides by 9/4. Those go away. Get x equal, nothing cross cancels here, so it's 5 times 9, which is 45/4. And that cannot be simplified. So there it is. Would I like to check that? Absolutely. So 45/4 divided by 2 1/4. 2 1/4, which, what do we say, 9/4? And does that equal 5? We're going to go ahead and try it. Remember, this means 45/4 times the reciprocal, 4/9. And does that equal 5? Yes, I can already see. Those go away. 45 divided by 9 is 5. So we got the right answer. Hopefully you enjoyed those. I know fractions might be bothering you a little bit. The more we do it, the better it is. If you forget any of the rules, ask me, text me, email me. I love fraction rules because they don't change. You just have to remember the steps and have fun with it, right? All right, see you next time.